In the beginning, or at least in their beginning, humanity was always there, nursing a Big Bang-level hangover from a reality-bending party that the rest of the universe hadn't been invited to yet. When the Arviks lit their first fusion axes, declaring they would use them in their glorious conquest of the Orion Arm, a human ambassador appeared at the back of the chamber, building a card pyramid from a deck of playing cards, and called the axes quaint. When the Drexy unveiled their revolutionary quantum brain cybernetics and announced to the universe that they had conquered death, a human diplomat was heard muttering to a Dragossi colleague, "Cute, we tried that in the Carboniferous. It's still pending peer review, but we got a really good meme about it. I'll forward it to you later." It wasn't malice. Humanity was just old. Ancient would be more appropriate in a way, that they had circled back to profoundly bored. To the humans, the universe was a well-thumbed box set that they had already binge-watched twice, knew all the plots by heart, all the twists and spoilers with a dull sense of predictability, and all the episodes were stained with coffee and regret. But humanity had a purpose. They treated the younger species as their children, because compared to humanity, that is exactly what they were. They were eager, loud, and emotionally volatile toddlers in a universe with untold dangers and perils, where they were convinced that their problems were unique, their wars epic, and their tentacle fashion revolutionary. And so, when the quarrels broke out, as they always do, humanity would intervene with the weary sigh of a parent that had just sat down after a long day. A simple hand on the shoulder here, a gentle, "Don't put that in your mouth, you don't know where it's been" there. Sometimes they would swap a war-torn planet for a completely unusable one, just to confuse everyone and make them stop fighting. Sometimes humanity would slip a few million tons of grain into a miracle harvest, leaving behind a note signed "The League of Extremely Giving Snack Dads." Humanity never asked for thanks, but boy, did the younger races resent humanity for it. The complaints in the Grand Galactic Council chamber would stretch on for hours. "Humanity, stop treating us like toddlers." "Humanity, stop moving our sacred war moons." "Humanity, you're so lazy. You just drink, sing and dance to terrible songs like the Macarena and nap whilst we build empires." The council chamber rang with accusations. Humanity, with its infinite patience, seemed content to sit back and carry on with their crossword puzzle. Then the Drexy ambassador pointed a finger at the human ambassador and screamed, "We would be better off if you left us alone." With that, the human ambassador put down his crossword and said the most terrifying words in any parent's arsenal. "All right, have it your way." And in the blink of an eye, humanity was gone. All that remained in the human ambassador's seat was a half-finished crossword puzzle, a cup of tea, and a packet of chocolate chip cookies. At first, the galaxy rejoiced. "No more meddling primates!" cried the Rakol, who immediately declared war on a neutral party for the crime of looking at them with intent. "At last, we control our destiny," shouted the Drexy, who implemented their brand new flawless logistics AI, which rerouted 98% of the galactic food to a deserted asteroid labelled Storage Unit A113 because it had optimal parking. "Now we will prove our superiority," boomed the Arvriks, who promptly lost their homeworld in a trade dispute over decorative space pebble tariffs. For a month, it was glorious. Everyone did as they pleased, but by the end of the first year, it had become a glorious disaster. Wars raged. Famine reared its ugly head, and societies began to collapse. By the end of the first decade, the galaxy was one complete dumpster fire that had been hit by a train, then flung into a fireworks factory. The Drexy AI starved the Rakol, who had mistakenly bombed Storage Unit A113 with rotten fruit out of spite. The Arvriks, guided by the new honor code, which was coincidentally written by a very inebriated poet, declared war on a nebula and lost. The Zivler, terrified of current galactic developments, preemptively nuked their own gift shops, just in case. Within 50 years, trillions were dead. Famine, plague, and endless wars shattered alliances and brought the galaxy to the brink. Refugees wanted the stars and across countless burning worlds to find safety, while governments issued unhelpful flyers about home over association rules. The galaxy had demanded independence, and it had gotten it, and as a result, has set its own trousers on fire. By year 100, the survivors were barely hanging on. They barely remembered humanity, as they cursed the stars, cursed each other, and cursed the Drexy's customer service line for the Logitron 5000, which was redirecting every support call to Storage Unit A113. And then, suddenly, it stopped. On 1,000 battlefields, guns sputtered and extruded perfectly grilled cheese toasters. Tactical screens blinked in Comic Sans. Timeout is over. Play nice. Also, somebody clean this up. You know who you are. Refugees blinked to find themselves back at home with long-lost family and friends. Worlds destroyed by war were instantly reverted back to the state they had been in 100 years ago. Wounded awoke to find themselves healed, limbs no longer missing, and a faint aftertaste of chicken soup, laced with a suspiciously large amount of whiskey. Entire ecosystems were restored with lawns freshly mowed. Terrified and confused, the younger races staggered back into the council chamber, ragged and smelling faintly of baked goods. And there they were, humanity. Lounging in chairs, drinking what looked like coffee but smelled strongly of rum, playing an incomprehensible card game involving quantum trump suits, whilst having a loud argument about whether Jerry was cheating, they were carrying on as if nothing had happened. "You're alive!" gasped the Vrakor warlord as he cradled a toastie. "Where were you?" demanded the Drexy, desperately trying to get the Logitron 5000 to stop serving recipes. We have suffered," cried the Yarvix, clutching a cookie and fighting back tears. "You abandoned us." The representatives of humanity all smiled, not cruelly, not mockingly, but with the exhausted patience which can come from being the universe's only babysitter. "No," said one of the humans, with a magnificent beard, wearing a t-shirt emblazoned with "Beard meets food." "We didn't abandon you. We gave you a reality timeout. We built you a nice little pocket dimension with no sharp edges, and no real furniture so you couldn't hurt yourselves, and we let you work it out for yourselves, and what did you do? You wrecked the place." The chamber fell silent. Then a human in a sweater rose carrying a mug, which read "Number 1 Galactic Progenitor." She sipped from her mug, adjusted her spectacles, and let out a peppermint-scented sigh of disappointment. "You told us to stop interfering," she began. "So we did. For 100 years you had the entire universe without us. And what happened?" No one spoke. "You fought each other, you starved each other, and you made truly awful life choices. That was the future you wanted. Freedom from us irritating elders," she stated. "You had your independence, and what did you do with it? You burned down the kitchen with your own hair." Behind her, a human slammed down a card. "Reverse temporal polarity on the ace of space. Read the rules, Jerry." The grandmother smiled warmly. "Children," she said, putting down her mug, "independence is not about being free of guidance. It is about learning why guidance matters, and no, Drexy, you can't spreadsheet your way out of a spaghetti fight." And from that moment on, no one called humanity lazy. Annoying, most definitely, prone to carrying colourful, humorous mugs and humming terrible songs about Barbies, absolutely, but not lazy. They were the parents, the oldest, most patient and most utterly insane parents in the universe, who would sip coffee while the galaxy screamed at them, because they already had the remote control and weren't afraid to press the off button. And the younger races, chastened, wiser, and somehow a little better for the experience, never again demanded humanity leave them alone, for they had learned the truth in the Century of Silence. Humanity wasn't the parents of the universe they wanted. Humanity was the parent the universe needed.